You're still sitting there, aren't you? Holding on to the apology that will never arrive. Replaying conversations in your head like broken records. Looking for cracks in the mirror as if your reflection holds the reason they left. But let me make it sharp and simple. They saw you. They noticed every tear you swallowed. Every silence you carried like a coffin inside your chest. They just didn't care. And that's the wound that cuts the deepest. Not ignorance, but indifference. Not that they didn't know, but that they knew and still walked away. They chose distance when you begged for closeness. They chose lies when you offered truth. They chose comfort while you were bleeding out just to keep them whole. And now here you are, broken pieces in your palms, asking yourself, where did I go wrong? I'll save you some time. You didn't go wrong, you went real. And real terrifies people who only know how to wear masks. They didn't just break you once. No, breaking you was never a single event. It was slow, surgical, almost elegant in its cruelty. It was in the way they stopped asking if you were okay. The way they let your words hang in the air unanswered, like prayers thrown into a sky that never believed in mercy. They broke you in fragments so small you couldn't even recognize yourself in the mirror anymore. Not with fists, not with obvious wounds, but with absences, with silences, with the cold shrug of indifference. Tell me, what's more brutal? A knife to the chest, or the quiet way someone teaches you that your heart is optional, disposable, replaceable? And you carried their betrayal like it was your punishment. You bent until your spine was begging for mercy. You swallowed words until your throat was raw with unspoken screams. Every night you rehearsed forgiveness they never asked for, as if compassion could resurrect the loyalty they buried alive. But listen closely. It wasn't your kindness that broke you. It wasn't your softness, your giving, your loyalty. It was the weight of trying to resurrect people who were committed to being corpses in your life. It was the burden of carrying souls that never planned to walk beside you, only to ride on your back until you collapsed. That's the cruelty of it. They don't stab you while looking into your eyes. No. They hand you the blade, smile wide, and wait for you to carve yourself open in the name of love. And every time you stayed silent when you should have roared, every time you stayed when you should have walked, you became their accomplice in your own undoing. But here's the paradox. The very pain that shattered you is also the furnace that forged you. Every unanswered call hardened your resolve. Every ghosted message taught you silence is louder than begging. Every betrayal carved away the illusion that people love the way you love. Do you feel it? That slow burn in your chest. That's not weakness. That's your awakening. That's the moment where grief transforms into anger, and anger alchemizes into power. Because healing, my friend, isn't soft. It isn't bubble baths and whispered affirmations. It's fire. It's war. It's you, standing barefoot in the ruins of the life you built for them. Your hands bloody from trying to glue yourself back together. Finally realizing you don't rebuild for them anymore. This time, you rebuild for yourself, and make no mistake, that realization is the first strike of the war. Not against them. They've already lost by choosing absence over presence. No, this war is against the old version of you. The version that begged. The version that chased. The version that thought love meant sacrificing your throne just to keep a jester in the kingdom. That version dies here, and something else, something sharper, is already crawling out of the grave. War, everyone thinks it's fought outside between you and them, between loyalty and betrayal, between truth and lies. But the most brutal war, it's the one no one sees, the one fought in silence, behind your ribs, in the dark corridors of your own mind. You know it, don't you? That battlefield at 2 a.m., when the room is quiet, but your chest is louder than any thunder. When memories come crawling back like soldiers of the past, armed with every word they said, every moment they left, every look that told you, you were never enough. That's the war, not against their faces, not against their names, but against the ghost of yourself, the soft version, the desperate version, the one who thought love could be earned if only you gave enough blood. Because let's be honest, they didn't just walk away. They left pieces of themselves lodged inside you like shrapnel. Now you fight not just to remove them, but to remind yourself you exist without them. You remember that version, don't you? The one who stayed awake until dawn, rewriting texts 1,000 times, never sending them, hoping silence would somehow turn into forgiveness. The one who laughed at jokes they didn't find funny just to avoid the terror of being abandoned. The one who kept saying, "I'm fine," while drowning in an ocean built from unshed tears. That version of you, he has to die. Not softly, not gently, but violently, decisively, like a soldier who knows hesitation is death. Because healing isn't kindness to the old self. Healing is execution. Every time you ignore the urge to beg for closure, you're pulling the trigger. Every time you delete the midnight message you almost sent, you're swinging the blade. Every time you walk past the places you once begged to stay in, you're setting fire to the battlefield. And don't get it twisted. This war isn't poetic. It's ugly. It's sleepless nights where victory feels like hell. It's mornings where you wake up and forget who you're even fighting anymore. It's standing in front of a mirror, staring into the hollowed eyes of someone who looks like you, but isn't you anymore, and whispering, "Not him, not again," because the old you, the one who begged, who compromised, who died in silence 100 times, he cannot come with you where you're going. He's the chain dragging you back into graves you've already crawled out of. So you fight, not with fists, not with screams, but with choices. Every boundary you set is a sword in the ground. Every no you whisper is a bullet fired. Every step forward without looking back is a victory flag planted in blood-soaked soil. And here's the part no one tells you. The war within doesn't end in one battle. It's daily. It's every time loneliness calls your name in the middle of the night. It's every time nostalgia tries to convince you the wound was worth reopening. It's every time your mind whispers, "Maybe they'll change." And you answer, "No, I changed." That's the war. The relentless, exhausting, beautiful war of becoming. And make no mistake, when you win this one, you don't just heal, you evolve. You don't just walk away, you rise. Because the battlefield inside you, that's where the strongest version of you is being born. Not in spite of the pain, but because of it. And then there is a silence, not the silence of defeat, not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of becoming. It begins quietly, like the pause before thunder, like the still air right before a storm rips the sky apart. That's you. Now, not broken, not desperate, but loaded, charged, dangerous in ways you never imagined. They thought your silence meant weakness. They thought your absence meant you surrendered. But your silence was strategy. Your absence was evolution. Because while they were laughing at the pieces of you scattered on the ground, you were learning how to bleed into bricks. You were learning how to stitch wounds into armor. You were learning that pain is not a prison. Pain is the forge. And inside that forge, you didn't just heal. You transformed. The old Usoft, bending, desperate, he burned away in the fire. What rose from the ashes was something unrecognizable, a creature of focus, of fury, of absolute clarity. Listen to me. When you rise from betrayal, you don't rise the same. You rise sharper. You rise quieter. You rise in ways that make the world uneasy. Because the one thing more terrifying than a wounded heart is a healed one that no longer fears bleeding. That's who you are now. The scars they left, they're not weaknesses, they're blueprints, they're battle maps. Every cut in your skin is a chapter written in the book of survival. And when you walk now, you don't just walk, you march. Your footsteps echo like drums of war, announcing to the world, I survived, I endured, I became. And here's the cruel irony. The very people who broke you will come back. They always do, drawn by the light they tried to extinguish, attracted to the fire they once feared. But when they knock on your door, you won't answer with tears or begging. You'll answer with silence, the kind of silence that shakes bones, the kind of silence that says, you lost access to me forever, because the rise isn't about revenge. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about finally looking in the mirror and seeing someone who no longer bows, no longer waits, no longer trades their crown for crumbs. This is power they'll never understand. The power of walking away and not looking back. The power of smiling in the same places you once cried. The power of sitting in silence. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you've become the storm. And storms don't explain themselves. Do you feel it? That pulse inside your chest? That's not anxiety anymore. That's rhythm. That's war drums. That's your new heartbeat. Aligned with purpose, every beat says, I will never be small again. I will never kneel again. I will never love with desperation again. And when you rise like this, you don't just survive the betrayal. You eclipse it. You outgrow it. You become so untouchable, so vast, that their names sound like whispers lost in hurricanes. Because rising isn't just getting up from the ground. It's building a throne on top of the ruins. It's wearing your scars like royal garments. It's realizing that pain didn't bury you. Pain crowned you. And once you rise, you don't just live differently, you breathe differently. You walk into rooms differently. People feel it before you speak. That aura of someone who's seen the abyss and crawled back not with fear, but with fire in their eyes. And here's the truth. They'll never recognize you now because the person they broke, that person no longer exists. They were a chapter. You are the entire book. There comes a moment, a single, undeniable moment, when you stop chasing, stop begging, stop proving. That moment is your coronation, the second you place the crown on your own head, without waiting for anyone else to give you permission. Because here's the truth they never wanted you to learn. You were never asking for too much. You were simply asking the wrong people. People who couldn't even carry the weight of their own shadow, let alone the weight of your loyalty. But now, you don't ask, you don't plead, you don't negotiate with people who see your worth as optional. You draw a line so sharp it could split history in half, and you say, this is where access ends. That's the crown. It's not gold, it's not jewels. It's silence, it's boundaries, it's walking away without the need to explain yourself. It's existing so fully in your truth that even their absence feels like a blessing. And silence, my friend, is not empty. It's full of the words you no longer waste, full of the peace you no longer trade, full of the strength that grows when you stop feeding parasites. With your energy, do you understand how powerful that is? To sit in a room where they once tried to break you, to hear their name without flinching, to feel nothing but the calm weight of your crown pressing against your head. That's power. Not shouting, not screaming, just silence sharp enough to cut through every lie they ever told. And boundaries, those are your throne. Every no is a pillar. Every door you close is a wall. Every time you protect your energy, you're laying bricks on a fortress no one can breach. The people who love you will never fear those walls. They'll respect them. Because your boundaries aren't barriers to love. They're proof that you finally love yourself enough to guard your kingdom. Do you see it now? You are no longer the victim in their story. You are no longer the extra character in someone else's script. You are the author. You are the monarch. You are the storm and the silence after the storm. And when they see you now, oh, they'll try. They'll send messages dipped in nostalgia. They'll knock with half-baked apologies. They'll try to remind you of who you used to be, but you won't open the door. Because the throne you sit on was built from the bones of the version of yourself they destroyed. You've outgrown them. Outgrown the rooms that could not contain your fire. Outgrown the people who could not meet your depth. Outgrown the cycle of begging to be seen. You don't crave their validation anymore. You command your own. And make no mistake, this crown isn't fragile. It doesn't slip. It doesn't fall. Because it's welded from every tear you swallowed, every scream you buried, every night you thought would be your last. It is permanent, unshakable, undeniable. This is what it means to wear the crown, to walk through the world untouchable, to speak less but mean more, to radiate an energy so heavy that even those who broke you bow when you enter the room. Because power isn't about revenge. Power is about absence. It's about them realizing too late that your silence was the loudest scream they'll ever hear. And when you finally sit on that throne, you'll smile, not because they hurt you, not because you proved them wrong, but because you finally proved yourself right. Every rise tells a story, but not every story ends with survival. Some end with transcendence. And that's what you've become. Not just someone who endured, not just someone who wore the crown, but someone whose very existence is a map for others lost in the same darkness. Because, let's be honest, you are not the first to be broken, and you will not be the last. Right now, there are people sitting in rooms you once sat in, holding back tears you once swallowed, believing lies you once believed. They think they are alone. They think no one will ever understand the war inside their chest. And then they see you. Not the broken you, not the desperate you, but the crowned you, the risen you. The you who no longer bleeds for people who never carried a bandage. And in that moment, your story becomes more than survival. It becomes prophecy. Proof that pain is not the ending, but the birthplace of something greater. Proof that silence can roar louder than begging. Proof that a person can be shattered into dust and still rise as something immortal. That's your legacy, not the scars they left, not the wounds you carried, but the transformation that turned every cut into scripture, every betrayal into gospel, every heartbreak into testimony. And legacy doesn't whisper, it echoes. It lingers long after you leave the room. It lives in the way others begin to walk taller, speak firmer, choose themselves without apology. Your rise becomes their permission. Slip, your boundaries become their courage. Your silence becomes their anthem. That's the irony, isn't it? They thought breaking you would erase you, but breaking you only amplified you. Your pain stretched further than their presence ever could. Your voice, even when unspoken, travels like thunder across lives you'll never even meet. And one day, someone will sit where you once sat, their hands trembling, their chest hollow, thinking they cannot survive this storm, and they will remember you. They will remember that someone else once burned in this same fire and didn't just survive, but built an empire from the ashes. That's the legacy, not revenge, not recognition, but impact. A ripple of resilience spreading wider than betrayal ever did. And here's the final truth. Your story is no longer about them. It's not about the ones who left, or the ones who broke, or the ones who couldn't carry the weight of your love. Your story is about you, about the throne you built, the crown you wear, the silence you command, the empire of strength you leave behind. Because legacies aren't built in comfort. They are forged in chaos, and yours is already echoing. Every step you take now is not just survival. It's declaration, it's prophecy, it's history. And when they speak of you, years from now, they won't talk about the ones who broke you. They won't even remember their names. They'll talk about the one who rose, the one who ruled, the one who wore silence like a crown and turned wounds into an eternal flame. That flame, that's you, unextinguishable, unreachable, unforgettable. And so here you stand, not in pieces, not in chains, but in fire. The same fire they thought would destroy you is the very fire you now carry in your chest. It doesn't burn you anymore. It burns for you. It lights every step. It sears through every shadow. It announces to the world that you cannot, will not, ever be extinguished. You are not just healed. You are not just risen. You are eternal, Understand this. They will tell stories of your fall. They will whisper about your silence. They will invent lies to explain why they no longer sit beside you. But none of it matters, because history will not remember their names. History will remember the flame, the one that kept burning long after the storm passed, the one that refused to die even when drowned in betrayal, the one that rose from ashes and crowned itself immortal. And that flame is you, unbreakable, unbowed, unforgotten. So when they ask, years from now, how did you survive? You won't answer with words. You'll answer with your existence, with the kingdom you built, with the silence that still roars louder than any scream. Because you are no longer a story of heartbreak. You are no longer a story of betrayal. You are a story of transcendence, a story written not in ink, but in fire, a story that cannot be erased, because it lives in every scar, every boundary, every person who saw your rise and learned to rise themselves. And as the final page turns, as the last line is written, remember this truth. You are not the ashes. You are not the ruin. You are not the wound. You are the flame, and the flame never dies.